I just want to say again, I think you guys like the discipline, the dedication that goes on with these podcasts. You're over 100 episodes.
Yeah.
It's almost unbelievable,
Yeah.
right? You guys have family,
Yeah.
full-time
Yeah.
job, hobby, sports for kids, I'm
Yeah.
sure, and you still
Mhm.
find the time to dedicate it to the payroll industry. I think that's so impressive.
Thank
It's
you. Thank you
admirable.
very much.
You guys are it.
Thank you.
Welcome to our podcast, It's About Payroll. We're your hosts, Brian Escobar and Walter William Duncan III. Whether you're new to the payroll game or a seasoned veteran, we have something for you.
Welcome back, folks. This is another episode of It's About Payroll. We're up to 114 episodes, proudly. And before we have an amazing guest with us today. She's been on before, Melissa Vicioso, and we're going to get into it. She's ready to go and has some great topics to talk about. But before that, we're going to get into pay news. And before that, what's up, Walt? How you doing, sir?
I am good. Thank you, man. You always do such a great job with the intros, man. I don't ever think I ever tell you that, but you do such a great
Oh,
job every time. So thank you for the consistency there, brother.
thank you, bro.
I appreciate you.
It wasn't
And
always,
and
but wait, hold on. It wasn't always. He's saying that because at one point I would just bobble things up and forget to even address
that was a big.
Walt. But still, it was in the
Oh yeah.
right.
Well, see, no, that was when we were doing things separately, right? We weren't. That's when you were doing the pay news updates yourself.
Oh, that's right.
That's when that
I
happened. It
was
wasn't always
literally
like
by
that.
myself doing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But fair. But yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Hey, when you love what you
Yeah,
do,
man.
we both been.
So
It took 114 episodes and more than that, really, because
honestly,
yeah,
lost tapes.
lost tapes. Remember, we recorded for a few months before we even started posting.
Yeah.
So it's been a work in progress, folks, and we're so happy that you come along on this journey with us. And yeah, man, look, let's try to knock out these pay news updates before Melissa jumps on.
All right, mine is short and sweet. It's
Okay.
from the Federal
Mine too,
News
so we
Network
should be good.
.com, the Department of
Veterinary.
of Veteran
Veterans.
Affairs. The Veterans Affairs have made a major change in the rules for veterans who left military service with other than honorable discharges. So this opens up the possibility for healthcare coverage for those people who had been discharged with willful misconduct or even moral turpitude, which are basically that means that they effed up, they did something bad in the military, and they were either discharged or for anything else that wasn't a good discharge or honorable discharge. So that opens up the possibility for them. And I think that is a great thing because it's not punishing them. That was punishing them all because you didn't have an honorable discharge. You don't get medical coverage potentially.
Oh, that's big.
You know?
Yeah, that's
So yeah, that is huge. Yep. So what do you got, man?
and thank you for your service, by the way, because you are also a veteran. Mine's, again, short and sweet. New York governor tried to increase the NYC mobility tax after congestion pricing was rejected. Real quick, I was in New York a few weeks ago, and my family and we were going into the cities. My little one's birthday, so she wants to go to into Manhattan and the American Girl and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they, my family's, oh wait, they didn't do it yet, but be careful because they want to do congestion pricing and they're going to charge to get into the city. Blah, blah, blah. And New York goes through this conversation every few years where it gets so congested in Manhattan that they consider trying to create some friction about going into Manhattan. And and it's only between certain streets, right? It's like above this street and below that street that they want to try to keep it less congested. But it was rejected. That congestion pricing was rejected. And it's it's not going to happen right now. I can't say that it won't ever happen. Of course, I'm not the government. But at the same time, so the governor of New York, right after that was rejected, she tried to say, well, then let's increase the payroll tax for any payroll professionals that have employees in New York, they may be familiar with the NYC payroll tax. And it's an additional tax. It's state. They have state, and that's the local. It's the local If you live in NYC, they additionally tax you on that. She wanted to increase that tax to make up for the lost revenue on this rejected congestion pricing. but that was also rejected. They were like, lawmakers were like, yo, we just rejected this. You're just trying to shift the money somewhere else. No, rejected it as well.
They were like, you tried it.
Yeah, good try, but not so fast. Payroll professionals that have employees in New York, you've been saved from some complaining, really, because workers would have called them, my check is not done. Like, my check went down. Yeah, because your taxes went up. So you got saved on that. But yeah, man, talking about money and increases and decreases, this is specifically for payroll pros, right? It's for every worker, but payroll pros need to be aware that effective July 1, a final rule that expands overtime protections for millions of nations' low-paid salary workers is increasing. The salary threshold required for exempt employees is being raised from 43,000 to 58,000. And it looks like it's as of Jan 1, 25. So it's going into effective now, but I guess they're going to give all of us a grace period to catch up and to make an adjustment, because it will impact planning. If you're a payroll pro, you need to go ahead and pull that report for your employers and show them who will be impacted. Add another column for the actual amount of impact so that your leaders could see what it's going to cost them to bring that up. And if you want to be even more thoughtful, you could think about average overtime, because the question becomes, do we just raise everybody's salary, or do we keep them, do we reclassify them as hourly now, which would make them eligible for overtime? So there's going to be an impact there, because and you got to estimate what that overtime is going to look like, because a salaried employee doesn't track their hours traditionally. So you really have no insight on how much overtime they work. And most salaried employees do work overtime, right?
That's true.
Go ahead and finish this off for us, Walt, and then we can get into a conversation with Melissa. Go ahead, stay there, Melissa. We just finishing up on our sponsor, and then we get into it.
All right. So that means that millions of American workers will be required to track their time and attendance, right?
Yep.
So whether they're new to time and attendance tracking or they're looking to make a change, TimeTrack Go provides a simply better solution that they can have you up and running in a matter of minutes. If you follow the link on our episode's notes, you'll also get the first month free. Don't miss out. Take advantage of the special offer. Use the link in our show notes to start your 14-day free trial in the month of June to qualify for your first month free. You can go to timetrakgo.com. That's www.timetrakgo.com, or you can call 888-321-9922. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. And right on point, Melissa Vicioso joins us. And how have you been? It's been so long.
Good. I had to do a little recap to see when was the last time we talked, and it was March 2023.
Wow. So over a year.
Or April, rather. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's been more than a year. I just want to say again, I think you guys, like the discipline, the dedication that goes on with these podcasts. You're over 100 episodes. It's almost unbelievable, right? You guys have family, full-time job, hobby, sports for kids, I'm sure, and you still find the time to dedicate it to the payroll industry. I think that's so impressive. It's admirable.
Thank you very much.
You guys are it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we went to a payroll PayCon this past year for the first time. It was our first time ever going. And we went on behalf of the podcast ourselves. We got ourselves there. And there was like over 2,000 people there. And a part of us was like, oh my God, I wonder, it would be great if everybody knew who we were. They didn't, and that's fine. It just shows us like, hey, where we need to grow. But all the leaders, all the who's who people there knew who we were. And we actually interviewed most of them. So that was like, wow. And they all, same thing, Melissa, just they were like, keep on doing it. You're doing a great thing for payroll. Keep up the good work. And that was like everything for us. That was all the validation we needed, is just folks like you to say, yo, keep doing this. It's good. So thank you so much. But in that year, you've made a lot of catch us up. What's going on? How you been?
A lot of moves. Like location. I moved from Florida to New York, back to back up north, a lot of just job changing. And to be honest, just a lot of just different insights on payroll.
Okay.
I think the beauty of Payroll One is you have the ability to change industries, change companies, and still have that knowledge,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think it's an underrated skill or maybe opportunity to do, right? Not every organization you're allowed to bring your sales knowledge, right? You're selling a different product or it a difference in maybe even culture,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Payroll is payroll,
Yep.
right? Everyone has to get paid. And I think, and I always tell people this, I'm like, my background is very colorful, just in different industries. But I feel like my current industry or current company is very niche in the sense of just trying to be as innovative as possible.
Nice.
And I think that it's a challenge.
Okay.
It's the first time that I think that payroll for me is a little bit of a challenge.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, and again, it's odd, right? Because it's not a technical challenge.
Okay.
More of what brought my topic,
Okay.
right? Payroll being an unsung hero of an organization. The
Mhm.
first time in my 13 years of payroll that I have to prove the function. I have to
Mm.
prove the importance. And it dawned on me, I've been in the company for almost 6 months, and it still hasn't hit.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And it's surprising. I talk to other people in the industry and a lot of my peers with more experience, less experience, and they're even like, but I don't get it. And I'm like, you know what? At first it was a little bit frustrating,
Mhm.
but I think it's, again, more of a challenge. I think, you know what? Everyone needs this in life, whether it's personal, professional. And I think it's just, again, being that evangelist for
Mhm.
payroll,
That's
really
it.
showing. And again, this is what you guys do day in, day out and on the podcast, right? You showcase how important payroll is, right? What skills that you can bring. And it's not pressing a button, it's different facets.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think this is my biggest challenge.
Wow.
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 Okay.
Good
Well,
luck with
I'm
that.
excited to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we go, hopefully we can reconnect a little bit more and hear about that challenge. And because I find that interesting, right? It's something that I think is bringing out the best in you, right? It's bringing out, it's causing you to think in a different way. It's causing you to look at things from a different point of view, I would assume, right? And so that sounds it sounds daunting, but it also sounds very thrilling in one side, right?
Yeah, I think it's, you know what it is? For me, it's a part of education. I always pride myself in a continuous learner.
Yes,
I'm
you
just
have
big
to.
on that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whether it's, again, it can be your own personal, right? It's time management. It's communicating effectively. It's all of those
Yep.
things, right? And I think this is then when the tables have turned. Like when now I'm the educator, right? And I'm teaching other people, right, how important this can
Yep.
be, right?
Yeah.
And as simple as it sounds to say, yeah, you're paying people accurately and on time, it's more to that. There's
Yes.
more to
Yeah.
that than just ensuring that the financial well-being of your entire organization is taken care of, even though that's in itself
Yeah.
is that important, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like, so anyway, I guess I've read a lot of articles about payroll being the unsung hero, but what it brings me back to my core is I worked for an organization a couple of years ago, almost 7, 8 years ago, and they had company awards, and it would be, and it was very sales oriented. So a lot of it was like MVP. It was based on metrics of revenue,
Right.
which makes sense. But it was part of a Christmas party. And I remember one year when they called my name and the title of the award was Unsung Hero.
Love it.
Wow.
And in my head, I was just so shocked. I was like, this is wild, right? I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
I don't even, I almost you almost feel undeserving, right? Because you're like, you have an organization of more than 500 people, right? It's a handful of awards. And when I sat with it, I was like, you know what? This is when an organization is so in touch,
Yes.
the behind the
Yep.
scenes,
Mhm.
that you can have, and it was an area where your leader had to send in like candidates or
Oh,
send
wow.
in, then I don't know if they voted on it. I don't know if it was
Mhm.
just handpicked with what information my leader provided, and I sat with it and I was like, you know what? This is how important payroll truly is, right?
Yeah.
When you're being called
Yep.
out, right, during a company-wide holiday, there are tons of other people that are bringing in $1 million of revenue. There's other people behind the scenes that are part of events or part of games or that are truly instrumental in the actual on the revenue side.
Yeah.
And here they are giving the head of payroll Unsung Hero Award.
That's dope.
Well, congratulations
Yeah.
on that. And
I was like, oh, but thank you.
Yeah.
I know, but still,
we are still unsung heroes because it's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
People
Yep.
underestimate it all the time. And since we started teaching. We're teaching payroll now. And in the fundamental course that I teach, that's how I started off. Something like we have to payroll is paying accurately. And I bridge off that. Such a simple statement is so complicated to achieve. And that's where this journey begins. And I take you through, but I talk exactly about that. Yeah, we say it like all nonchalant. Number one thing is pay accurately, but that is a complex, and it could be super complex depending on your situation, your company situation.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, let me ask you a question. How do you think the pandemic, post-pandemic, has impacted us as payroll professionals? Because I think it is, to your point, we've had, even during the pandemic, it forced a lot of us to change how we do things in payroll, how we process. A lot of us had to go into hybrid or remote positions or type of work scenarios, right? How has that impacted you from a career standpoint? And can you speak to anything else? Like, I know we had the PPP loans that were out there. Can you speak to any of that?
Sure. So I think it changed it 1,000% for the better. I think it truly showed organizations where the information comes from, right? Where the actual data is coming from. I think an example of that is during the PPP era and during that first year, I think they launched it that summer. So I think it was like May or June of 2020.
Right.
The company that I was with, I think we were on our third round of layoff and we were just trying to figure out how to get the capital.
Wow.
And when that PPP loan was advertised, the only questions that were on that application were payroll related. It was your 941s, what are your taxes, what FICA, all of that was only payroll related. It wasn't the CFO getting involved. It wasn't the controller getting involved. It was truly payroll data. And you needed to be one of the first companies to even get that information to your bank in order to qualify.
Yep.
I remember the bank that we're using, I think it was a community bank. So it was, I think they had the spot, like 20 spots open.
Wow.
So it was, I remember working overnight with my chief legal officer and partially the controller just to get the data right, ensure that the backups were there. And we were, I think, if not the first, maybe the second company to actually submit our PPP loan.
Wow.
And I think it was that turning point that organizations looked at, you know what, how valuable is this, right? We essentially floated or were provided funds for, I want to say it was the summer. I want to say it was till August. Was from May, June, July, August, 5 months, 4 to 5 months of having staff because we were afforded this.
Wow.
And that, I think, if that can't be quantified, if that's not a metric, I don't know what is. I think that, again, was a turning point. And I thought in my head even further, I said, you know, what else can we do with this data, right? We can also really bring to the table the true cost of an employee, right? Overtime is trending up, right? Why is attrition in this department going? You know what? Maybe it's the compensation. Let's meet with the comp guy or the comp girl and see, you know, what the salary levels look like. And I think again, we see the beginning to the end of an employee life cycle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? They come in, we see when they leave. And I think, and again, it's how staffed your team is as well, right? I don't want to bring all these ideas out and someone's listening in and they're like, I'm a team of one. Where do I find the time, right? But I think, again, it's loving your craft, right? It's being that passionate about it to know where you can fit in. And I think that's important, right? I think when you really use it as leverage and you really understand the importance, even if the organization doesn't give you that, doesn't highlight your function or doesn't recognize you, right? I think that's everyone's kind of internal battle in payroll, right? It's everyone says it. It's a thankless job. It's, you know what? But I always flip it. I think I say this in almost every interview, in almost every new hire orientation with a payroll team is, I look at every payroll as an accomplishment.
That's right.
every
Mhm.
run.
That's right.
I
And
like that.
enough
I do like
to get
that.
me
Yep.
through. That's it, right? You have a weekly payroll. Guess what? You have 52 or
Wins.
53
Yep.
opportunities to say, I
Yep.
won. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And to me, if that's the bottom line, you did win. And I think that's what keeps you going until payroll is recognized as a function or as a department that holds enough importance. You have to keep that morale going. And
Yeah.
I think everybody, again, in payroll, and whether it's 2 years, whether it's 10 years that you've been in payroll, you constantly have that battle. So I think back to your point, back to your question, it's during the pandemic, I think it forced organizations to say, we really we need to have this payroll data clean.
Mhm.
We need to have it
Yes.
scalable.
Yep.
We need to have it digestible for at any point in time, right? When we need payroll insights, when we need payroll analytics, we can pull it and we can understand the true cost, right? We can understand what the breakdown of that line item on the P&L,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that important.
Yep. And I
Yes.
I love it. So I made a few notes here to add to it. If you are that single payroll person and you don't have the time, things like this could help you make the case for either an additional hire, whatever have you, some resource or part-time, whatever, that additional resource that you might need. So that's one
Yep.
thing, right? Don't beat yourself up because, hey, that's a business case. And then
Yeah.
you're right. The PPP, I was also involved in the PPP loan for my organization. And I think it was through that I coined the phrase data hygiene because
There you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
That's it.
the data
Yes.
hygiene, Walt was there, Walt knew, and folks were like, oh my gosh, I love that data hygiene. Yeah, because if it's not clean, you're not going to have good payroll data. So
Garbage in, garbage out.
garbage in, garbage out. And like Anita Latink said in her book, payroll
Mhm.
information starts as soon as an HR change or addition has been made. So it flows down.
Yeah.
And that's the data hygiene of it all. That's the ecosystem of that data is doing that. And again, with that PPP loan project, like we started to, not just we all started to look, everybody involved in that started to, and that was the CFO, the controller, the COO, the CEO. It exposed payroll in a very different light. Oh my gosh. And we started to look at wages incrementally because the other part of that PPP loan is you didn't have to pay it back if you
Exactly.
used it appropriately. And one of those appropriate ways to use it was giving employees more wages or wages, period. And so we tracked the incremental increase through the pandemic, and they're probably still tracking it now because they want to make sure that they're on point. And that's how the loans were justified, is if you can show that you've used this to increase wages, not promotion, not this, like it was a certain definitive way. And we had to build something custom, by the way, to
Yeah,
track that.
everything was
It was
custom.
custom, and we built it custom, and I was part of that as well. It was just a whole, I love it because it really exposed that. It really put a shining light on payroll. Wow. Oh, wow. You guys
Yeah.
you have a wealth of information.
Exactly.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I think it's, at the end of the day, I think companies, obviously, you're looking at your product, whether it's a service, whether it's a physical product. And that's understandable, right? It's a business, it's always a business decision, right? It's a business justification. But I feel payroll can always have a seat at the table, for lack of better words, right? Or just at the end of the day, be part of that goal, right? Be part of your company pillar, be part of your mission statement. And it's not always front line, right? You sign up for payroll and it's behind the scenes, right? You're not always customer facing unless obviously there's an issue or something like that.
Right.
But for the most part, you're not, right? But understanding your value. You're not starting an organization saying, okay, how can the company make me feel valued?
Yeah.
It's, I know my value. I know I'm confident in the service I'm providing. And this is how I'm going to communicate it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes payroll professionals get lost in that, right? I think they get lost because they focus on the errors, right? They focus on all of the defects because that's the only time leadership or managers or whatever the case may be actually call you out. I think that's the area you can really bring ROI, right? You can bring ROI in in HR utilization, right? Though that's data you can
That's
bring.
right.
You know what? You're spending X amount of dollars, but guess what? We have 99.9% utilization for employees. So employees are checking for their
Yep.
pay. They all are looking at their time card. So that is form of ROI,
Absolutely.
right? It's not this, right? If companies have COEs, or if they have any self-service, or if they have a shared service team that really does do log metrics for employee inquiries, right? It's setting up
Yeah.
how-to articles, right? It's setting up searchable items on their intranet that decreases those calls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's that partnership.
Yes.
And I think there's so many areas that only payroll professionals can really dictate, right? Someone can look at a system and say, all right, let's screenshot this, let's screenshot that. But you don't really know the pulse of what a person is asking, right? They're not experts, right? That's why we're the SMEs, right?
Yep.
We're the subject matter
Yep.
experts to say, well, actually, they're not going to ask about Medicare. They're going to ask about Social Security. How far are they in the year where they're going to max out, right? When will their net pay change because they have a life event
Yep.
coming up? Or that's specific, where then you know how to frame the knowledge article to say, this is 2024's new limit. The 2025 new limit is this. If you reach blah, 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 you can see this sample pay stub, right? And I think it's all of these things that you as a payroll professional, it's common knowledge for you, right? It's something that
Yes.
at every end or every start of the year, you know, right? But each employee doesn't know, right? That new customer service agent or your new CMO that just started or whoever, right? At any level, right? You can always
Right.
educate. And I think that's how we can transform payroll, right?
Yes.
It's not the cost center. It's not just
That's right.
back office operations, right? It's truly educating financial literacy.
Yes.
And
Man,
I think
no,
that's
man.
ROI.
I love
Man,
it.
she is preaching today, man.
Oh, I love
She
it.
is
No, I
getting
knew it
there.
was going to be a good episode because Melissa always
Yes.
delivers. Okay, again, some comments here. What does COE mean? You said COE.
Center of Excellence.
Oh, Center of Excellence. I love it. All right.
So usually large enterprise organizations, they'll have center of excellences for HR, right? And then part of that HR, usually a sub-department of that would be payroll. Or sometimes center of excellences have payroll function.
Right.
Mhm.
And what happens is whatever system you use, it's ServiceNow, it's Jira, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
it'll get queued to that function. So it's not necessarily even a payroll professional that's answering it. It's just a customer service person with payroll experience.
Ah,
Okay.
got
Sure.
it. And then
Thank you.
Or-
I love how you say payroll led to other things, right? And one of those things that I think folks discount is communication, employee communication, right? So I remember at one organization I was at, we were trying to figure out how, look, they got the payroll system, ADP Workforce Now, and the homepage. And a lot of
Yep.
them now, you can communicate to your employee through these landing pages. But what we realized was nobody was going to the page. Oh, right. If you have the app,
Sure.
the ADP app, all they want to see is what they got paid. And you can see that from
Yep.
the app. You don't have to go to the landing page. So what we realized was forcing folks to clock in through the ADP Workforce Now, integrating the time and attendance, forced them to go to the landing. It absolutely increased engagement and sign up. It didn't solve 100% because communication is tough for employees. You restrict it in some sense, but it exponentially grew the engagement just because most of our workforce was hourly. They had to go onto the landing page to clock in. And that's what
Yep.
increased it. And that now we were able to say, hey, it's on the landing page. When you clock in, it's on here, it's there. Now we were able to speak to that and point them to that. It can absolutely solve communication issues that you might have. And also
Or you
AI building, like you were saying with the articles, right? Now payroll's part of training AI. I love it.
Great
And,
stuff.
amongst other things.
you have to, I think, again, with payroll, and it makes sense because you're usually an individual contributor. You're usually just one function. And I think at least for myself, I'll speak for myself, when you're in payroll, you think you can just solve the problem on your own.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you're dealing with confidential information. You're dealing with a limited scope of people can see the information, right? So you almost have the mind of not real collaboration, right? If you contribute, to your point, if you're contributing to engagement or utilization for HR system or payroll system, and it doesn't reach the 100% or the 95% or whatever that whatever your goal is, then it's not good. But that's not what you should think, right? That's when it's a collaboration. That's when you're doing your part, right? Payroll isn't in charge of change management with pay only, right? You're working with HRBPs, you're working with frontline managers, you're working with all of these other teams. And I think sometimes as payroll professionals, you get lost in that, right? Because you're used solving a problem from start to end, right? Always. So I think that you have to change that mindset as well, right? You truly can be collaborative.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always have to be numbers. It can be, again, change management. If you're changing at least a pay frequency, right? That's not us on their own,
big.
right? Huge for hourly populations, for not even, I think the facet. I've been in organizations where hourly employees, they understand. It's the salary, it's the C-suite, or it's the salary, it's the SVPs. They're the ones that they're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
My net pay look lower.
Yes.
I don't get it. Sends out this memo. It's on the intranet. It's a memo on your last pay stub. Those are the population that aren't reading. There's so much, I think, that gets lost in what payroll can contribute to.
Yeah, absolutely. Another topic I talk about a lot in the class is like that. Don't be afraid to be collaborative, because that allows you to stretch and learn about other things, and not just, I just do payroll. No, you can learn about finance. Maybe you want to grow into that area. Maybe you wanted to go into HR. Walt just executed a pay frequency last summer. Was it last summer or 2 summers ago now?
It was last summer.
Oh, okay. And he had to collaborate with the whole COO. Right? You're in ops, you're in finance, you're talking to everybody at that point to execute that. So I love it. Yeah, I love it. And that kind of cover the ROI, payroll and personnel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's getting confidence back in payroll. I think that's what's the missing piece sometimes. And again, I feel like a lot of employees or payroll teams, they look for that from leadership, right? They look from, and it's natural, right? I think that's a natural kind of way to think, right? If you're constantly getting recognition, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
You have to look inward, right? Or look to your network.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? I have a handful of payroll employee professionals that I reach out to when I'm stuck with something, right? And again, it's not disclosing confidential information. It's literally just saying
concepts. Yep.
Yeah, this is how I'm dealing with it. It hasn't worked. I tried A, B, and C.
Not working.
Help me, right? It's raising your hand. And I think that, again, back to my initial sentiment, that's why podcasts like this, that's why the work that you guys are doing is so important, right? Because it breaks down that wall, right? That some people think I'm in payroll, I can't talk about it. But you guys break that wall down. You know what? I saw an episode, and you know what this person was talking about. Maybe if I add them on LinkedIn, or maybe if I message them, and maybe they'll reach out and give me some insight or point me in the right direction. And I think that's what the function needs, the industry needs. It's missing that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and look, they may not admit it, but we're responsible for all the other payroll podcasts that exist right now, because it was like Nick Day. Our Laurel reminded, she's like, Pay Talk was out, and I was like, yeah, but you guys only do once a month, right? We connected with Payroll Org, a professional over there, and rightfully so, kind of putting Pay Talk on it. But again, Pay Talk is once a month, and Nick Day was on his day, but Nick Day, we all have our own flavor, and now there's a bunch of them, and thank God, because when we first started, we were like, there's no content out here. There's no payroll content. And that's why there's still only 2 authors now that have written payroll books that are not textbooks, right?
Yeah.
Anita Latink and Bart Vanderstorm, both from the Netherlands, by the way, which he reminded us when he was on. So there's still opportunity. There's still a ton of opportunity to fill gaps for content in the payroll world. I'm here for it, and welcome everybody else that joined us. But
great, you guys are the trailblazers.
Oh, thank you very much. We
Thank you
appreciate
for that.
that. And you too, because I remember your episode at the time was like spiked in our rating,
Yeah.
right? And we had folks
Yeah.
was like, because you bring this different angle and a new perspective on things, and folks were loving it. And I think I don't want to say the first female, but one of the first females that we had on. I remember my daughter at the time. She was like, "Oh, I love that you have these female leaders, and I love it. It's inspiring." I was like, "Oh, cool." I didn't even think about it that way at that time. Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you that.
Just like looking at just different perspective, different guests
Yeah.
mentioned, and here your daughter probably not even payroll in
No.
the payroll industry.
Nope.
She's just from an outsider looking
Yep.
in,
Yeah.
and she's look at what you guys are
Yep.
doing. You're highlight female
Yes.
leaders, and you're like,
I
oh,
was like,
I did that.
yeah, we did. Exactly.
Prior-
Exactly. So yeah, man, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Oh, let's do. Are we ready to go into this or that? We started.
Yeah.
two
Unless
new
Melissa
things.
has something else you want to say.
That's it. I think I covered all my points.
Okay.
We started this game, this or that, and
Okay.
you can. Are you familiar with Drink Champs?
I
It's
am.
like Quick Time with slime, right?
Okay.
You can pick either, both, neither. It is absolutely inspired by that because I'm a Drink Champ fan. And
Okay.
and then we have another segment that we do at the end called Safe Talk. We usually let the guests drop off if they don't want to talk about it, but if you don't mind joining us for that, you can stay on for that too. All right, you want to start off the this or that, Walt?
There's 3, and then you can finish it off. So, this or that. Pan de coco or lumpia?
Of course, Lumpia.
Yeah.
Filipino, of course. I have to go with the home team.
Yes. Okay. Science or math?
I want to go with math. I was a big stat person in
Oh, wow.
college, and I feel, that's what kind of,
Got
to
you
be
there?
honest,
Oh.
wrote me in payroll a little bit.
Oh.
Okay.
No,
Fascinating.
Walt doing his
All right.
research.
And the last one I have is music or podcast while driving.
Oh, I want to say podcast. I commute. I take the train to work, and I'm a big podcaster.
Mhm.
I've been for many years, which is why I was so impressed or so shocked when you guys came out. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Something related that I could listen
Yeah.
to on my commute.
Yes.
Nice.
Love it. I'm gonna change it up a little bit, Walt, here. Cabin in the
Okay.
woods or beach house?
Oh, beach house,
No
1000%.
doubt. No doubt.
Gotcha.
Marvel or DC?
I'm not a big either,
That's
to be
fine.
honest.
There you go. That's fine. And do you prefer this one I like as paper or digital? You like
Yes.
handwriting things still, or did you everything must be typed?
I'm digital now.
Ooh, wow.
I'm a big OneNote. I'm big on that being my kind of record of meeting minutes and to-do list. I'm a big Outlook to-do list person. I think you slowly have to incorporate that because paper
Yeah.
gets lost. It's easy. I don't know if you guys use Slack at work,
Yeah.
but Slack has this new thing of recap thing.
Mm.
So what it does is it'll recap all of your Slack messages. So if you Slack yourself,
Mm.
you can now summarize. So say for instance, well, you changed pay frequency last year and you just put that into Slack into a group, say your whole payroll team. You can recap all of your messages. So it'll say
that's dope.
August 2023, we changed from weekly to bi-weekly. These were the topics that were discussed. These were the
Wow.
questions. And I feel like as technology, we are moving with technology.
Mhm.
It's even payroll deadlines. If you use to-do list or if you use Outlook notifications, you can just share it with your group, right? You can share, I have a payroll calendar payroll Outlook calendar, or whatever the case may be. And I just share that calendar instead of sharing individual deadlines, right?
Yeah,
It's
the whole
saving
calendar,
time. So you're saving it with your HRBPs, you're sharing it with whoever else. And I think it's just trying to effectively use your time.
I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, you're right. There's still some organizations still doing time and attendance on paper. And I was like,
Oof.
they're smaller shops, but I'm like, oh, whoa, it's unnecessary because it doesn't matter how small you are. There's some time and attendance things that are free. So there's no excuse for that. It's
For
like,
smaller organizations,
Yes.
right? You're like less than you can use this for free for maybe sometimes indefinitely.
Yes.
Because paper, what at the end of the day, you're gonna have to scan it,
Yes.
Yep.
right? You need the record. So now you're doing double or maybe even triple the work because now you're scanning it, you're transcribing it, you're putting it in an Excel calc timesheet or whatever you're doing.
Yep.
So instead of that, just again, utilize a system. Or when I worked at my very first job, there was a technician that actually built a time and attendance system based on the CBA rules.
Yep.
He was a technician. He was an aircraft technician.
Oh my gosh.
He wasn't a tech guy per se,
Right.
but he knew the rules and he built it.
That's great.
That's how, like, again, utilizing your staff,
Yes. Yep.
right? You don't need until you vocalize or you really look at the talent.
Yeah,
you go.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So-
Oh, wait, I just wanted to say government. I wish, because I was like, wait, I got so recently, I lost 2
Mhm.
pieces of mail from the government, and of
Mhm.
course I can get it again, and da-da-da. But I got mad at myself because I was like, dang, I should have scanned this in immediately. And then the
Yeah.
other part is like, government, move to digital. Why are you mailing me this? Just email it. You know?
Give me a option.
Yes.
Yes,
Like, why
yeah.
doing this still? But anywho, all right.
Got to keep
So-
those push job on, man.
Yeah. So our safe talk segment of this, and then we try to be a little bit more, I don't know, less political, less PC with this segment, just like real talk.
Yeah.
And it's, do you feel that payroll pros take enough pride in themselves and their role? So I'll go first and you can think about it. Do I feel that payroll pros take enough pride in themselves and their roles? I think we do. I think going to payroll org, you'll see that. I think a lot of folks
Okay.
do, right? But there are probably some that don't enough
Yeah.
and should. And this ties into that unsung hero thing, right? Because it's, if you feel like you're not being recognized and all that, it could, could give you like, you're not even, then, could get you down and be like, and then you're not even recognize yourself, right? We got to
Yeah.
be our
Yeah.
own advocates sometimes. What do you think, Walt?
For me, I absolutely agree with what you just articulated there. I think that for the most part, especially now, and for a lot of us, yes, we do take pride in ourselves and our contributions as payroll professionals. But maybe a couple of years ago, maybe some of us didn't until we realized the gravity of the importance of what we do.
Right.
When you come to that place that almost, I don't want to say a fork in the road, I don't know that's the right statement, but when you come to that place and you're like, okay, I can either go this way and stay with status quo, or I can just further my career and realize how impactful you've been. I think a lot of us come to that place in life, in our careers, where we can have that pride and take that pride in ourselves. And then some of us, we're okay being a steady Eddie. I'm going to be a payroll processor the rest of my life, and I'm cool with that. So, yeah, you're right, man. You're absolutely right, Brian.
Yeah. I agree with both of your sentiments. I think to your point, Brian, I think there's a little bit of imposter
Yes,
syndrome
that's the-
sometimes,
yep.
Perfect.
right? When not necessarily again around payroll, other payroll professionals, or even HR. I think wholly right in the organization, because I think times when I was able to talk during a new hire orientation or do a lunch and learn or something like that, you then you're a little like shell shocked, right? Because you're like, wait, should I be doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Look here. And then you have to rethink, right? And then you have to say, yeah, you know what? People care about their money.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Business cares about their number 1 or number 2 highest expense, right? At year after year, that's never going to go
Nope.
away, right? And you, to your point, be your own advocate. You have to then build up your own confidence. And again, this is why networking is important, right?
Yes.
Having, again, your key people and again, it doesn't be personal. It could just be strictly professional, right? I think that's a big part of it because there's also a level of knowledge transfer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Among payroll professionals, right? And then in turn, you get the confidence of saying, you know what, that is important. That's something that I could bring to the organization, my organization. And then you raise your hand. So I think confidence again, to you guys, when you guys went to PayCon, you'll see like-minded people.
Yes.
You're inspired.
Yes.
The motivational talks, of course, 1000%. I saw a lot of clips and I was like, you know what, I have to make it out there.
Please.
I think that's important to just be around,
Mhm.
right? You have to surround yourself, right? It's that age-old saying, right? You are who your friends are,
Yes.
right? You are who you
Yes.
surround
Yep.
yourself with. And that's important, right? But I think it's important to recharge there. It's important to get that confidence back. But the second part of that is bringing it back to the organization,
Yeah.
right? It's bringing it back. And I worked for an organization, short story, 1 year, and it was more SHRM than it was Payorg, or it was APA then. And one thing that we left from there was bringing back, showcasing a deck, and that was the ROI, right?
Yeah.
They'll pay for the SHRM, they'll pay for your ticket out there, they'll pay all expenses paid, but you now have to bring back to the organization
I like that.
what got from that
Yes,
conference.
I like
That's
that.
awesome.
3 days. It was a 3. I think it was Vegas. Then what? Well, it was Vegas that the year that we went, and it was like, okay, so now we don't have an issue, right? Investing in our employees
Right.
and investing in functions that we know the organization needs to improve in. But now, what can you now educate? Whether it's the HR team, whether it's
Yes.
C-suite, whether whoever it is,
Yes.
right? Why is this important?
I love
And they were they weren't like, oh, we need to know how to save money. No, it was just knowledge,
Yep.
right? What's on the right? What other organizations are doing that maybe can lead to saving money and cost effectiveness, but what if it's just automation, right? What if it's just how to save more paper?
Yeah.
What you know, it's what if it's how I learned how now to, I think then it was system utilization. So it was
Nice.
employee engagement via HR system.
See?
How can we improve that? If it's
Mhm.
if an app is not available, are we spamming them with emails? Is that efficient, right?
Yes.
No, actually what we're doing now is we use Fuse then, right? We will send a blast Fuse, we'll create a payroll channel, we'll do this. And that's what you're bringing back to the organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, to your point, I think payroll professionals are confident. I think, to be honest, maybe top 3 traits you need.
No doubt.
Be successful.
It's integrity,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
That we tell people it's integrity, it's reliability. And 3, I think is interchangeable with that aspect of confidence, or even dependability, right?
Yes.
That, or maybe even, I think tech savvy is later down on the line because you can learn
Yep.
that. But I think ultimately those 3 are key things for you to be
I
successful.
love that.
Nice.
I love that. You got to build around that concept right there.
Please do.
Yeah. I love that. And
And
that's
I think
accountability too. Having
Yeah.
doing the deck. Hey, yeah, I'll send you to this conference that you want to learn at. Because I hate when they do them in Vegas. There's something I want to do in Vegas with payroll org. But
Yeah,
look at me tell my
correct.
wife, oh, I gotta go to Vegas for the week. Yeah, okay. So now I gotta bring, we gotta plan a vacation around that. But anywho,
Just so you could
yes.
buy it.
But anywho, but like that's good for an organization because it's wait, I'm sending you to Vegas for what? No, come on. So now if you do this, then it's okay, yeah, you can go, but you got to bring a deck back. You got to build a deck as a result of that on what you learned and what not only what you learned connected to the organization. What applies? What did you learn
That's
that
pretty
applies
awesome.
that could actually help us here? That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It doesn't even, I mean, it can, but there are other facets of it, right? Sometimes there's speakers that aren't payroll related or
yeah,
HR
exactly.
related.
It doesn't have to be. No, but
Yeah.
what did they do? What was that big class that we were trying to take, but it was full when you got there?
Has something to do with, I think, probably like mental health or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
not.
There we go.
Right, it was not payroll. It was mental health things. They were talking about that being, and that class was packed. Walt couldn't even get a seat.
I could
See?
have.
And look, so you could bring that
Yep.
back to, you could even maybe ask the speaker, hey, you know what, if you're part of a big organization and maybe they're looking for speakers, or maybe
Yes.
maybe you're doing a mock site
Yep.
and someone is, and you're the CHRO or CPO or whoever you report to is looking for someone, a speaker for your team,
Yep.
right? You're like, God, I just saw this
Great
person.
bring back.
They're definitely worth the money.
Right.
This is what I got from it. I really feel like the organization can benefit from that. And it's anything, but I think again it goes back to the point of, I think all payroll professionals, you have this underlying trade or whatever the case may be of being resourceful.
Yep.
Yes.
That's right.
I think it's just a common theme all the time, right? It's how you can use this one payroll register to extract all the information that
Yes.
you need,
Yes.
whether it's how many, for FP&A, for headcount, for it's understanding how overtime looks, for finance. It's all of these things from this one report,
Yep.
Yes.
one report, and you could manipulate the data and how you could ensure that what the next payroll funding is. Like, it's all of these things, and that's being a key to being resourceful.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Love it.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Melissa's
Melissa, for
always
joining.
great.
Yeah,
Yep.
always a great. We know we talk about staying in touch, having you on more. We'd love for you to make it happen. Let's do it. And yeah, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming
No problem.
on. We love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us. And until the next time, hopefully we make it sooner than a year and a half. Even though
Yes.
time just flies by,
Sure.
right? It's so quick, but
Oh.
try to be more. Maybe we could have you on quarterly or something. That'd be
Oh.
cool. That'd be really cool to be recurring.
That'd be
Absolutely.
great.
So cool. Be good and stay in touch. And
Yes.
until the
Thank
next
you.
time, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Before we sign off, here are a couple quick things. Don't forget to follow It's About Payroll on LinkedIn and It's About Your Paycheck on Facebook and TikTok.
Thank you for being part of our payroll community, and thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.